Welcome back to the Better Learning Podcast. This episode is part of a special series we recorded live at PASBO Conference, also known as the Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania this year. While we were there, we had the chance to sit down with school leaders, business officials, and partners from across the region to talk about what it really looks like to plan, fund, and support today's learning environments. So in this series, you'll hear a real conversation about the trade-offs, the challenges, and the opportunities that come with trying to build better learning environments. Without further ado, let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Better Learning Podcast. Brian, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, than's for having me.
Listen, before we get into the details here, better sports town, Pittsburgh or Philadelphia?
Well, I live outside of Philadelphia, so I got to say Philadelphia.
Do you have a particular team you love?
I like all four, but probably Eagles, Phillies, Sixers, Flyers in that order.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
Yep.
I mean, it's the wrong answer, but I'm going to let you go ahead and run with that.
Yeah, I understand geographically where we're recording this, so but I got to stay true. So,
Brian, I'm so happy to meet you. Do me a favor, tell our audience a little about where you're from, the type of work you do, and your district.
Great. So I'm currently serving as the Director of Business Administration at the Radnor Township School District in Delaware County outside of Philadelphia. We're a district of about 3,600 students, so suburban Philadelphia. Villanova University is in our district. And so kind of the career path that got me to where I'm at now, I've been in school business for 25 years now. Out of college, I have a bachelor's degree in secondary education. So went to school to be a history teacher, and now I'm director of business and finance. So took a little bit of a career U-turn there at some point. Yeah, so just got involved in the business aspect of school districts out of college as my first job, and found I really liked the business side of things. So just kind of over that 25 years, went back and got my MBA, got my accounting certificate, just kind of professional development to go along with the skill set I needed to go from being a purchasing clerk to being a director of finance. And so, yeah, I've been at Radnor for 4.5 years now, have an awesome team there. So it's a great district to be at, and, just super people that I get to work with every day.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And your passion for education predates your work in school districts.
Yeah.
You always saw yourself as someone delivering instruction and working with students and maybe doing curriculum. And here you are in the business office, making an impact in a different way, a plot twist, as you said, right?
Really?
Tell me a little bit about what it's like to sit in your role now and the way you keep student impact and teaching and learning and community, the things that really drive school districts at the core of what you do.
Yeah. So part of my job is finance, right? I'm primarily involved in the budget and, making sure the debits and credits align and, where the income statement and the balance sheet look like at the end of the year. But I also have responsibilities of oversight in the facilities department, the food service department, transportation, pretty much all of the operational functions of the district roll up to me administratively and then to our superintendent. So, you can go into the week, with a checklist of things that you're trying to accomplish. And then depending on what happens that week, you could have a transportation issue come up or something go on with facilities. And so most days are not usually going to go how you plan them to be. So there's a lot of pivoting and really just kind of have some knowledge in all of those different areas, but rely on the staff that we have to be the experts. So if a facilities issue comes up, I have a fantastic director of buildings and grounds. And so he and we just actually did a workshop at the conference a few minutes ago on how we collaborate together to problem solve and budget and, anything that comes up like that. So it's really kind of to be, the jack of all trades, master of none, but having the people there to be those masters and, understand the nuts and bolts of what they do.
Were you always this agile and able to be multifaceted, or is that a skill and a sort of a trait set that you acquired in your work?
Yeah, I think, I'm pretty organized person. So the day-to-day, week-to-week things that I need to get done, I'm pretty organized with. And I think having that helps me be able to pivot when something else comes up, knowing that I have a plan to go back to do those other things. So in some aspects, I'm pretty rigid about my checklist and things that I need to get done and the big whiteboard in my office. But then also, you kind of roll with it and, understand that most days are going to be a little bit different. And so I don't know if it was really a skill that developed or more just like you kind of get used to it and, like at some point that's part of the job and you got to be able to do that.
And you've worked across many districts in the state of Pennsylvania during your career.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about, the different maybe insights and skills that you've accumulated in those different places. Like, how did each of those settings shape you and build you as a school business official?
Yeah. So I've been in rural districts that have had 1,200 students to some larger suburban districts with over 12,000 students. The finances are the finances. Like we joke that, it's just an extra zero at the end of most of the numbers. So the mechanics of the finances kind of work. I think it's more in the people and what staffing do we have available to, specialize in some of those areas. And at Radnor, I'm fortunate that we have, the ability to have specialized staff in some of those different areas. Some of the other districts, with less staffing, you have to be, able to do those job functions a little bit more than just an oversight role. So I think it's just seeing the different perspectives of, the people that you have available to do those things, what you have to jump into. And it's also understanding, when you have those people that do that, to know, when to jump in and when not to. Part of the way too is, every school district in Pennsylvania is comprised of, 9 school board members. And so as I've gotten into an administrative role, it's seeing how each of those boards interact. It's the same structure, but every school board works differently. They're very, very unique entities. So
It's a really nice way to say it.
I was trying to be, as well as I could put that. But, each of them have their own unique personalities and, the 9 personalities on that board and then how they function as a group. So I think just regardless of the size of the district, just working with different groups of individuals and how they do things has kind of given me perspective on my role and how they operate and, how that kind of works together.
You randomly drew a card here as we were getting warmed up here, and the card asks, what do you hope people will someday understand about the role you play? Maybe share something that, for folks who maybe sit outside of a school district, what should they know about school business official or a CFO like yourself?
Yeah. So I think that the first question that most of us get asked when we tell people we work for a school district is, do you have your summers off? Well, in most cases for us, we don't, right? Unless you're 10-month staff. So, that's always the first thing that people want to know. I think it's just an understanding. When you talk to a lot of people, they don't understand. They just think there's a superintendent, there's building principals, there's teachers, and all of the other things just kind of magically get done, right? The buses just get there, the facilities are maintained, right? Everything just pays for itself. So I think just as I, have conversations with people, they get a better understanding that we have a whole other side to the district. There's, the educational side, and then there's the operational side. And, we're always working together to, further the interests of the students and our staff and, make the district as well run as possible. But I think people just don't understand that there are people in our roles that are, come mostly behind the scenes that are helping to facilitate all of those things. And, when you think about what a school bus driver does, right? They have a really tough job of, students coming in and off. So they're responsible for the kids on the bus, driving a 72 passenger vehicle, parents that are waiting at the bus stop. And, sometimes we have parents that think they can come on to the bus. And so there's safety issues. And so it goes back to the day-to-day thing, like things come up like that. And so it's just important, I think, that people understand, we have bus drivers, we have cafeteria workers that make sure that we provide nutritious meals every day. We have custodians, make sure that the buildings are clean. And then in our office, right, we always joke that the most important person in the district is our payroll person because they're making sure everybody gets paid. So there's somebody that has that role. And so I just think that people don't, when you say that you work for a school district, they don't understand that whole other side that goes into it.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Before I let you go,
yeah,
grab one of these fun questions here.
Okay. So when someone says, we just want something simple, what does that phrase usually turn into about 6 meetings later? So you're assuming it only takes 6 meetings.
I may be undershooting.
Yeah, I would take the over on that. So people's definitions of what simple is, I think, is a little bit different.
Just something simple. 6 months later, 20 meetings.
Yeah, I think I think people in our world understand that things don't move quickly in K-12 schools, governmental type of agency like that. We have to go through approval processes, and we have to have budgetary restrictions, and school board ultimately has to bless decisions that we make. When we're doing a building project, there's collaboration with our township with permitting. And so things take an awful lot of time. So the simple, I'm using the air quotes here, the simple things that come up, sometimes they are simple. Like, yes, you can do that. No, you can do that. Yes, you have money. No, you don't. But a lot of times it's, well, we got to check on that. And this is going to require this step. And, oh, you want to buy that, but you have to adhere to procurement regulations. And we have to go back and check that. So, a lot of times there's not a simple type thing. So if I get some of these simple things for 6 meetings or less, that'd be a win. Yeah.
Brian, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you. Thank you so much for giving us some time.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
The Better Learning Podcast is produced by Matt Rogers and edited by Kelly Jones. The views and opinions shared on this podcast are those of the individual speaking and do not necessarily represent the perspectives of their affiliated companies, organizations, or associations.